Hello, I'm Dr. Ron England coming to you from Daytona State College. We're going to talk a little bit about JavaScript objects. We've been doing some stuff on JavaScript objects, a little bit on refactoring. I'm going to use JS Fiddle, and I'm going to show you some JavaScript code. And this is some really simple code. It's from another lecture where I basically have a button that says draw a circle. I click on it, it draws a circle just like so. You can see the circle's drawn. And the function is pretty simple. You get the canvas. You figure out the radius of the circle by making it half the width of the canvas. In this case, you get a context object to draw on. Then the circle equation is pretty straightforward. The x and y of the circle is simply the cosine and the sine of theta. In case we start at 0. Then we basically go around the circle from theta equals 0 to 2 pi and increment it and draw the x, y's with a line 2 and a stroke. And that's a really very easy procedural way of drawing the circle by hand. Now the reason we're just demonstrating this with a circle, the reality is you can draw anything. This is the process for it. But what we're going to do is we're going to look and say, you know what? How would you refactor this to be more object-oriented? So I'm going to go to my dashboard because I've actually done this. We're going to take the same exact example, only in this time I've done it a little bit more object-oriented approach. So first thing we'll show is that it still draws a circle, although in this case my circle I've made a little smaller. And the draw circle function is a little different now. It's going to have the C get the canvas, like before, get a context object to draw on. And now I'm actually defining a variable called myCircle, which is a circle. C.width divided by 2, C.height divided by 2, and 100. Well, that's the center X, center Y, and the radius that I passed to this thing. I'm basically instantiating a circle object. And then I tell the circle object to draw on a context. Notice, in this case, I'm actually passing the context that it's going to draw onto to my circle. Well, that is an object I've defined. So let's go up here and look at this. First, I've got this constructor function here, basically, that defines the circle, which takes x, y, and a radius. And it then defines there's 3 variables here, center x, center y, and radius, which it defines as the 3 passed variables, center x, y, and the radius. Now, if you go back down here, you notice that I said myCircle.draw. So I actually had to do a separate step to tell the circle to draw. So I've defined a circle, and then I can draw the circle. Nice thing there is that I can actually define multiple circles if I want to, and I can tell them to draw, which is kind of nice. But let's look at this. So I've created this inside of the function circle. I've also created another function called draw. Now the first thing I have to do is I actually have to find this externally, that the this.draw equals draw. So the draw that you call here is this draw, which gets the context variable that's into it. So this step here is necessary, that this.draw equals draw. Then I can define a function draw. And it's essentially exactly the same as the function that I had before, only I've got a little bit more complex in that before I always centered it right at the midpoint. Here I can use the defined center x and center y so that I could draw circles in different locations. Okay, so but the x and the y was essentially the same, math of the cosine, math sine. And over here I just take the theta and I go from 0 to 2 pi. And I just draw line 2 and I stroke on the context and it draws it. Same function. Okay, now one of the things that's nice about this is I can say, you know what, I can have another circle. I could say my circle 2. Okay, and it's going to be a new circle. And this circle itself can be, I can make this C.width divided by 3, so it's going to be a different location. Or I can just tell it a location. I don't even have to say, the canvas. I can just put it at 120, and let's say 240, and I'm going to make it have a diameter of 150, or I'm sorry, diameter radius of 150, and my circle 2, okay, can now be drawn. Let's draw, and I can draw it on the same context. And I should be able to run it, and I should be able to draw, and now I get 2 circles, okay, because I get the second circle that I just drew. Well, see, that's got some advantages to it in the object-oriented is that now I can, without having to call the function over and over again. Well, of course, I could have made draw circle, just have those as variables, but I can instantiate new circles and draw them wherever I want to. But you know what? I'm still looking at this circle object here, and I'd like to refactor it just a little bit more. And the reason is if I look at this x and this y, I've got the same equation being used over and over again, and I really don't like to see that happening. So we're going to go back to my dashboard, and I'm not going to save any of those changes. I'm going to go ahead and show you a little bit more of a refactoring here. I've kind of worked on that circle a bit more. Now, the draw circle function hasn't changed at all. I'm using the same draw circle function, but now what I've done is I've actually defined two more functions inside of the circle function. I've defined this dot x and this dot y. And the x and remember, the x has to have theta, the angle that goes in the cosine and the sine. But if you look at this, I've got the this dot x equals x, so I define that that actually is a variable function that is available to you that you can actually call. And I return the x that is actually from the past t, the this dot center, this dot radius times math cosine, and the same thing for y. What that does is it comes up here and it simplifies the draw function, because now all I have to do is move to this dot x of 0, this dot y of 0 to start, and then I can simply then go through the theta from 0 to 2 pi again, and I'm drawing the line from this dot x, this dot y, and it's going to go ahead and call that function each individual time. So it's another step in refactoring to make the code look a little cleaner. The nice thing being is that now I've got this code for x and y isolated. So if I want to draw something other than a circle, well, I've only got one place that I have to change the code, and that could become very, very handy. But what this has done is it has actually, well, despite making it a much longer thing, it's refactored it into objects. And what's the real advantage of refactoring into objects? Well, objects make code very reusable. The circle object is now a very useful function, or it's an object itself. It's very useful that I can now create circles wherever I want to. And you can see both of them work the same. This will work exactly the same way. If I hit draw circle, it'll simply draw that circle. And it's easy to change the circle because I can change the number that goes into that. I can make it there. So if I run now with the draw circle, put 200, it's bigger. Very straightforward to be able to use it. So this is the concept of the object-oriented programming. Notice that the x and the y and the draw are all encapsulated. They're methods that are encapsulated inside the circle object, which you can do in JavaScript. So a little bit of going through object-oriented type of programming and refactoring, and hopefully this is useful to the students so that they can see ways to do things and do things a better way. Good programming. See you later. Bye.